Got one. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dan Garodnick, Chair of the City Planning Commission and Director of the Department of City Planning. Welcome to today's review session of the City Planning Commission. We are joined today by Vice Chair Knuckles, Commissioners Benjamin, Cerullo, Crowell, Gold, Marin on Zoom, Osorio, and Rampersad. Welcome to all of you. Thank you. Before getting to today's agenda, I'd just like to share some recent city planning related news. Last week, Mayor Mamdani announced Sidea Sherman as the next chair of the City Planning Commission and Director of the Department of City Planning. Edith Sue Chen will also continue in her current role as Executive Director. This is fantastic news on both fronts. Most recently serving as Commissioner of the Mayor's Office of Equity and Racial Justice, Sidea brings a deep commitment to public service and a strong record advancing equity, affordability, and opportunity for New Yorkers, an approach that aligns quite closely with city planning's own mission. We all know Edith is a brilliant planner who has dedicated her career to serving New York City. No one knows the agency better or cares more deeply about its people and work. I'm delighted that she's going to continue to advise the incoming chair and help guide city planning's efforts in the years ahead. So congratulations and welcome. Last month, the city also launched its first expedited land use review procedure for 351 Powers Avenue, a project that could create approximately 84 affordable homes in Mott Haven in the Bronx. Approved by voters in November, this process, known as ELRP, not ULRP, but ELRP, offers a streamlined public review process for certain types of affordable housing, modest zoning changes that increase residential capacity, and climate resiliency projects. Thanks to this expedited process, which shortens public review from 7 months to 90 days, we can get shovels in the ground and people into homes faster than ever, which is welcome news as we continue our work to tackle New York City's housing crisis. A quick note, while most ELRP proposals go before the City Planning Commission, 351 Powers does not, since it is a disposition of city-owned land. Instead, after going to Community Board and Borough President, it heads right to the City Council for a vote. Our agenda for today begins with a different ELRP application from the New York City Departments of Parks and Recreation and Citywide Administrative Services. They're proposing to acquire around 3.7 acres of vacant land to expand Sawmill Creek Park in Travis, Chelsea, Staten Island, a highly sensitive ecological area that includes significant natural resources and provides a habitat for several state-listed endangered and threatened plant and animal species. This is the first ELRP to appear before the City Planning Commission and the first resiliency project to take advantage of this expedited review process. The application will make its way before the Community Board and Borough President for their recommendations and come back to the City Planning Commission for a hearing and a vote by June. After that, we will stay on Staten Island to learn about a proposal by the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice and the Department of Citywide Administrative Services. They are seeking to consolidate Staten Island family courts operations with a renovation and construction project. Both 100 Richmond Terrace and 55 Stuyvesant Place would undergo major renovations, while 10 Hamilton Avenue would become the site of a new 8-story court building. Together, these improvements would create a centralized hub for judges, lawyers, members of the public, and others who rely on family court services. This would improve upon today's arrangement, which faces space constraints, security challenges, and operational inefficiencies due to the court operations being spread across 3 different facilities. From there, we're off to Throggs Neck in the Bronx to learn about a proposed rezoning at 815 Hutchinson River Parkway. This action would enable retrofitting and internal changes to existing buildings within this shopping center to allow retail establishments larger than 10,000 square feet. In Williamsburg, Brooklyn, we will review the expansion of an existing building into a mixed-use development with around 140 homes. Between 30 and 40 of these homes would be income-restricted and affordable. Located at 200 Kent Avenue, the proposal sits close to Domino Park, North 5th Street Pier and Park, the New York City Ferry, and the L train at Bedford Avenue. We will remain on Kent Avenue, but we're going to head to Bed-Stuy for 2 new residential developments with a total of 65 homes, nearly 20 of them income restricted and affordable. The buildings would be located at 862 to 868 Kent Avenue, which is near Myrtle Village Green Community Garden, Taffy and Star Spangled Playgrounds, the G train at Myrtle Willoughby Avenues, and the B44, 48, and 54 bus lines. The Commission will then review a proposal for a mixed-use development at 2136 46th Avenue in Long Island City, Queens, located across the street from MoMA PS1 and close to the 7E, F, and G trains at Court Square. The building would include 70 new homes, nearly 20 of them income-restricted affordable, along with ground-floor commercial or community facility space. We'll next hear details on a proposed mixed-use building at 15806 Northern Boulevard in Murray Hill, Queens. The project would create over 75 new homes, around 20 of them income-restricted and affordable, along with ground-floor retail. The site is near the Q12 and Q28 bus stops, Leonard Square, and the Long Island Railroad Broadway station. The Commission will then examine modifications to a previously approved special permit that would facilitate a new office tower at 343 Madison Avenue in Midtown. The proposed changes would adjust the street wall height on the East 44th Street frontage. Finally, we'll review City Council modifications for 3 proposals. First is 1410 Beach Channel Drive. Next, 3301 11th Street in Ravenswood. Finally, 395 Flatbush Avenue Extension, Brooklyn. And that's it. Okay. We're going to go right into it. Madam Secretary, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the City Planning Commission special review session, regular review session for Monday, March 2nd, 2026. The time is 1:08 and a quorum is present. The first item on our agenda is a certification of a site selection and acquisition in Staten Island Community District 2. Presenting for the first time to the Commission is Paul Medvetsky.
All right, Paul, welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair, Commissioners. My name is Paul Medvetsky from the Staten Island office, presenting the Sawmill Creek Marsh Park Addition Land Use application. This is an application from the New York City Parks Department alongside the Department of Citywide Administrative Services. They are seeking a combination acquisition and site selection of real property, and the property in question is a vacant, unimproved lot adjacent to a wetland complex that the Parks Department seeks to rehabilitate, restore, and then integrate into the existing Sawmill Creek Marsh Park. On November 4th, 2025, voters approved New York Question 3, a ballot measure to revise the New York City Charter by adding Section 197E, the Expedited Land Use Review Procedure, or ELRP. This charter revision facilitates an expedited process for certain land use applications, including resiliency projects such as the Sawmill Creek Park addition. Specifically, this project is proceeding through ELRP because it is the acquisition by the city of real property for the purpose of developing a resiliency project. This acquisition is the city's first such ELRP resiliency project going before the Commission. This is so because the project meets the threshold under 197E B7 because the project contains wetlands that are adjacent to city-owned property. Under ELRP, this project would undergo 90 days of public review, consisting of 60 days of simultaneous review by the Community Board and Borough President, followed by 30 days undertaken through followed by 30 days of review by the City Planning Commission. This is instead of the typical 7-month timeline undertaken through the typical ELRP process. This enables a project like this to accelerate the timeline from proposal to approval. This is an aerial photo to give you more insight into the surrounding neighborhood context. This project is on the west shore of Staten Island, so generally speaking, there are industrial uses, some commercial uses, lots of parking, lots of vacant land, and lots of wetlands. The property, which is proposed to be acquired by the city, is outlined in red, and it is bounded to the west by Chelsea Road and bounded on all other sides by New York City Parks property, which is made up of wetlands. You can see this green patch with blue veins surrounding the project site, and those are the wetlands. That wetland complex is Sawmill Creek Marsh Park, and it is generally bounded by roads on all sides. Most of the wetlands complex is owned by parks. The wetlands are regulated by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. The wetlands within Sawmill Creek Marsh Park make up the New York City Economic Development Corporation's Sawmill Creek Pilot Wetland Mitigation Bank. The current private owner previously applied for wetland disturbance permits with New York State DEC, but the permit was denied. Parks has long desired to acquire the property and integrate it within the existing complex of wetlands and Parks' own land. The current owner is willing to sell, so Parks would like to acquire the parcel. To the north of the site is a school bus depot and several warehouses. To its south is a large parking lot, and to its east is the West Shore Expressway. Typical of the West Shore of Staten Island, there's a mix of valuable natural assets, parking, and commercial industrial uses. This is a tax map of the area with the project site outlined in red. This is a site map which shows ownership of the tax lots. You can see that all the surrounding area is Parks property except for the project site. It's important to note that the project site is vacant and unimproved. It also lacks development potential. This is a map of the land uses near the project site. You can see that the project site is vacant and the surrounding land, mostly owned by Parks, is also vacant. There are parking lots and light industrial uses nearby as well. Here are some photos of the project site. The left picture shows the southern lot line of the site looking south. New York City Parks' owned property is behind the fence. The second photo shows one of several dozen cats living on the property. The cats pose a threat to the rare bird species in the area, and all the cats will be removed from the project site upon acquisition. According to the applicant team, Parks intends to request to the current caretaker to neuter the cats on the premises and seek feral cat rescues or other options to remove the cat population from the site. You can also see that there is ample trash at the project site due to dumping and the accumulation of cat homes and supplies over time, which would also be removed to allow the natural features to flourish. A Phase 1 environmental site assessment will be conducted to confirm the absence of historical or hazardous uses. The City of New York has a long-standing commitment to wetland protection and restoration in this area. Following the 1990 Exxon oil spill in the Arthur Kill, New York City's first salt marsh restoration was completed here in 1993. During the same decade, the Blue Belt program managed by the New York City Department of Environmental Protection began integrating wetlands and stream corridors into the city's stormwater management infrastructure. The area was also declared a significant coastal fish and wildlife habitat in 1992 by the New York Department of State. It is also part of the nearly 2,200-acre Harbor Herons Wildlife Complex, which has been monitored for 40 years by the New York City Bird Alliance, formerly New York City Audubon. The area is home to many species listed as in need of conservation, such as the seaside sparrow to the left and the brown thrasher to the right. In 2018, New York City Economic Development Corporation established the Sawmill Creek Pilot Wetland Mitigation Bank, restoring a large swath of tidal wetlands and issuing the city's first wetland mitigation credits. The bank works by providing compensatory mitigation credits to applicants who are going through federal and state waterfront permitting processes. It uses credit sales to fund the restoration, establishment, enhancement, and/or preservation of aquatic resources for the purpose of offsetting unavoidable adverse impacts from the applicant's development proposal. New York City Parks has also restored over 5 acres of salt marsh nearby. Together, New York City Parks and EDC have restored more than 59 acres in the area, supporting increased biodiversity and a resurgence of birds and other wildlife. In 2021, Parks released the Wetlands Management Framework for New York City, which specifically referenced wetland conservation and restoration on Staten Island. You can see in the aerial photo a general increase in the area's lushness and greenery between 2016 and 2019, showing the results of conservation work which Parks hopes to continue through their proposed acquisition of the project site. To recap, New York City Parks and DCAS are seeking a combination acquisition and site selection of real property by the city to facilitate the acquisition of an approximately 162,000 square foot Block 1780 Lot 15. Acquisitions would enable the integration of Block 1780 Lot 15 into the existing Parks-managed Sawmill Creek Marsh Park, which is home to EDC's Sawmill Creek Pilot Wetland Mitigation Bank. The project site is composed entirely of DEC-regulated tidal wetlands and regulated wetland adjacent area. Due to the property's regulatory constraints and ecological value, the site has minimal redevelopment potential. With public ownership, the city could ensure lasting protection, prevent incompatible development, and support continued habitat restoration and management. It would also build upon the many decades of public investment in environmental restoration within the Arthur Kill watershed. Upon acquisition, the project site would be managed by New York City Parks. Public access may or may not be provided. It's unclear at this time. I'm happy to take your questions now.
Great. Thank you. Congratulations. Well done. Commissioner Osorio is going to kick it off.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks so much for the presentation. I think that this is necessary and very interesting, very important. I just had two quick questions, and maybe if you can follow up later with it. I would love to understand a little bit in more detail what's the status of the Sawmill Creek Pilot Wetland Mitigation Bank, like exactly how much land or how much has been restored, and also where have we allowed those wetlands to be impacted in the other boroughs. I understand the importance of this, but I want to be mindful of, where are we losing wetlands as well. The other question is, can you share or can you follow up a little bit with how has the city involved the community in this process? Particularly, I know that there's significant environmental justice advocacy and so forth in this area, and would love to hear what's been the public process so far. I know that we're just sort of like at the beginning of the process here, but would love to know so far who's been involved and to what extent.
Sure. I can certainly follow up for both of those questions with Parks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay. Thank you. This item is certified, and congrats again. Welcome. Okay, next up, another Staten Island item.
The second item on our agenda is a certification of a site selection in Staten Island, Community District 1, and our presenter is Amy Obanaga.
Hello, Amy.
Hello. Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is an application for the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice and the New York City Department of Citywide Administrative Services for a city-owned site selection to consolidate all facilities for the Staten Island Family Court on a single block within St. George, the Special St. George District in Community 1, District 1, Staten Island. The proposed action, in conjunction with a mayoral zoning override, would facilitate the development of a consolidated family court facility for Staten Island. This aerial photo provides surrounding neighborhood context. The yellow dotted line on the screen includes the 3 tax lots, 9, 17, and 22 on Block 9, all of which are city-owned properties located within a C42 zoning district. The development site is approximately 38,000 square feet in area. The Empire Outlets and St. George Ferry Terminal are less than a quarter of a mile from the development site. And across from the development site are waterfront blocks, which include the Staten Island University Hospital Community Park and Baseball Stadium. And the NYC's Department's 120th Precinct is adjacent to the development site. You will recall this area because it has seen several private applications recently, those seeking approval from the Commission. Most recently, our last session, which would be 198-208 Richmond Terrace, 3759 Hamilton Avenue, and the River North Project, all shown in the gray dotted outline, just adjacent to our park nearly, our development site. The project area is zoned with commercial, manufacturing, open space, and residential use, largely comprised of multifamily, 1- and 2-family buildings. This section of Richmond Terrace, Stuyvesant Place, Bay Street, also compose Staten Island's downtown civic center with many of our other courthouses nearby. To provide a larger context for the proposed action, in 2019, New York State adopted the Raise the Age legislation, which increased the age that a child can be criminally prosecuted as an adult in New York State to the age of 18. And thusly, the New York courts, family courts, are required to expand their services and facilities to provide judicial assistance necessary to defendants 16 and 17 years of age who previously would have been tried as an adult in criminal court. Currently, the Staten Island Family Court operates 2 courtrooms in the original building, and in the modular buildings, there is 1 hearing room and 1 other family court support program. At 18 Richmond Terrace, there are 4 family courtrooms, 1 hearing room, and then at 25 Hyatt Room, there are yet more courtrooms and hearing rooms. The proposed action in conjunction with the mayoral zoning override would facilitate the development of a consolidated family court facility for Staten Island within the St. George Civic Center, and that would renovate both the existing court building at 100 Richmond Terrace and the administrative office building at 55 Stuyvesant. The proposed development would also include the construction of a new family court building at 10 Hamilton Avenue. I'll have pictures of these later. The proposed new building at 10 Hamilton Avenue will result in non-compliance with the zoning resolution due to site limitations and the exacting requirements of a family court facility. For this reason, the applicant will be seeking the mayoral zoning override to waive regulations related to maximum base height, footprint, tower top, and setback regulations. In addition, the applicant team seeks a waiver from the St. George Special District regulations regarding sidewalk width. Strict adherence to these requirements would constrict the building's floor plate, rendering the court with insufficient area to accommodate the required programming. Similarly, meeting the zoning requirements for the loading berth would reduce the space needed for court operations, and for this reason, the team is seeking the NZO. And to provide you some context about this programming and how tight it is, this is a photograph that the applicant team shared with us. The proposed building will accommodate the necessary programs like courtrooms and hearing rooms, which have very specific set of dimensions. For example, the applicant team has shared with us that their floor plates must be a minimum of 78 feet wide to comply with courtroom standards. This image, of course, as I mentioned before, it demonstrates just how tight that programmatic need is. Shown on the screen is a site plan showing the layout of the family court campus. A private green space is also going to be proposed between the Stuyvesant building and Richmond Terrace, which will be reserved for employees and judges. So 55 Stuyvesant is indicated there. 100 Richmond Terrace is the building in front, and then on the lower right is the 10 Hamilton Avenue. These are some site photos to provide further context. This is a view of the existing family court building, which was constructed in 1931 and landmarked in 2001. This building has not seen significant renovations, only minor repairs since it was built. The photo on the right is a view of the family court facing southwest, taken from the corner of Richmond Terrace. And in the dotted outline of yellow, that is where the 10 Hamilton building is proposed to be situated, right on 10 Hamilton. This is a photo, again, of 100 Richmond Terrace. This is, again, the currently used family court building. It's taken from the southwest and also from the corner of Hamilton Avenue. The yellow dotted line, again, represents where the new family court facility will be located. And you'll also see a white structure in 10 Hamilton, a little bit more clearly here. This is the 10 Hamilton site. This photograph is facing southwest, also taken from Hamilton Avenue, and it also shows two temporary single-story trailers. There's also room for parking, and there are some court facilities, some court operations happening inside of these temporary facilities, which will be removed as part of the construction of the 10 Hamilton Avenue new proposed building. Yet again, this is another photograph of the site. Again, you see, again, the temporary modular structures. This photograph is of the vacated Health and Human Services building. This is the 55 Stuyvesant Place building. This building will see renovations, significant renovations. And this photograph is taken from the northeast from Stuyvesant Place. Yet again, another photograph of 55 Stuyvesant Place, also taken from Stuyvesant Place as well, and it is facing southeast of the vacated Health and Human Services building. This is a rendering that the applicant team shared showing the proposed renovations of the landmark building at 100 Richmond Terrace, again, the currently serving family court building. The image on the left is showing the proposed public plaza in front of 100 Richmond Terrace, which will replace the current stairs leading up to the landmark structure. The new structure on 10 Hamilton, and that's your image on the lower right, and it's labeled C, but it's not shown. And they will have a new entry plaza that is ADA accessible, among other changes. This proposal will be the only public entry for the campus for the plaza through this entryway. And so again, that would be the photograph, the smaller photograph on the lower right, which would show the entrance to the new building and the renovations to the plaza in front of the landmark building. Lot 17 is 10 Hamilton Avenue, and it's represented there in the dotted orange-yellow outline. Again, it's not improved with anything other than the two impermanent structures of the single-story trailers I mentioned before. These two trailers will be removed to facilitate the proposed building, and there are currently parking stalls, but that's to give you a rendering of the proposed new family court building. And this, in addition to which, the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice and the Dormitory Authority of State are also proposing a new 8-story, approximately 124,000 gross square foot institutional building at 10 Hamilton. In regards to 55 Stuyvesant Place, and that's represented in the dotted blue line, as mentioned earlier, it's the former Department of Health and Human Services building. It was also the subject of a disposition in the Bay Street Corridor neighborhood plan. The proposed project will renovate and connect this structure with the 100 Richmond Terrace building and the new proposed building at 10 Hamilton, thus creating a family court complex that is designed to meet the programmatic needs of the family court. Enclosed that the attached here is the elevation showing 55 Stuyvesant Place, the existing building that would be renovated, and the proposed drawing of the height of the 10 Hamilton Avenue building. The schematic elevation here shows how the proposed new development will sit with its surroundings, with the proposed height of 152 feet. That would exclude the mechanical areas in the bulkhead. And once again, in summary, this is an application from the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice and the New York City Department of Citywide Administrative Services to consolidate all facilities for a site selection, to consolidate all facilities for the Staten Island Family Court on a single block within Special St. George District in Community District 1 on Staten Island, Block 9, lots 9, 17, and 22. Again, in the proposed action in conjunction with the MZO would facilitate the development of a consolidated family court facility on Staten Island that would meet New York City's court operational and security standards and would also be a modern facility that the community deserves. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Let me go to Commissioner Cerullo.
Amy, thank you. Hope these are quick questions. So, I guess I'll do them in no particular order. Given the proximity of the new building to the Landmark building, does Landmarks weigh in on this at all?
The applicant team has been in contact with the Landmarks Preservation Commission, who's been deferring to the state's Historic Preservation Office. And the application, and they will come and they will speak about that in further, but they have been in conversation, yes.
Is there an action that will be required, or do they just say we take a pass or we approve? Is there an affirmative action that's required by either Landmarks or state preservation that we would be waiting for in this process, or is it just that they're communicating?
They're seeking approval. If I could get back to you as to
Sure.
what specifically they would be providing the commission as proof of their conversation and approval from LPC and SHPO.
Great. I appreciate that. Thank you. Now, just another question, again, in no order, but since this slide is showing, there are 3 locations listed in terms of the summary of what we're doing. And if you go back a slide or two, if you can go, no, another one. Okay, this is a good one. So if you look to the right, the different, I'm just trying to get a sense of the addresses listed are addresses where consolidation is coming from, or there's now all 3 of these have different addresses.
Correct.
So these are all 3 different addresses, all under the same application, and all of them are going to house different components of the family court system.
Correct.
Okay. It would be helpful if we could get a summary of that by like the address and the services going into each of those components.
Sure.
Okay. Appreciate that. The other thing is, you had said earlier on, and also and I can't tell if the historic the landmark building, the original courthouse from the 30s, is in this story anywhere, but what the uses what the potential use or expected use of the original courthouse will be, to incorporate that into it. Okay. You mentioned in terms, when you were outlining sort of the actions and the waiver requests, you said something, and I understand the height, the setback. You mentioned sidewalks. And can you clarify on what's being sought with respect to the impact on sidewalks? Which ones, like at what point around the building, and how does that relate to everything else that's happening in this area with respect to how the sidewalks may change at some point, whether I'm assuming they're being narrower, although because I'm sure a waiver wouldn't be necessary to make them wider. So I'm just trying to figure that out.
Certainly. So all of these structures are within the Special St. George District, and there is a provision, there is a regulation that requires a 12-foot sidewalk.
Yep.
And in the case of 55 Stuyvesant, where they are not doing a new construction, or they're not proposing a new construction, they are renovating the current building at 55 Stuyvesant, the former Health and Human Services building. They will not be able to, because that building is existing. And then on Hamilton, they would have been required to maintain a 12-foot sidewalk. But that 12-foot sidewalk would constrict their floor plate. And given what I had mentioned earlier, which is that they have high demand on their program and the space usage, that reduction would negatively, and they would not be able to provide all the services they require. The room would not be there.
So basically, they'll be building into what, and this is not a perfect, I'm not saying this as if this is really what's happening on the ground, but we can envision what's happening here is that the building will be built into an area that otherwise the sidewalk would have otherwise been required where it would be.
It would have
so that the footprint of the space pursuant to the requirements for the court could be met.
Right.
Is there anything we can see or the applicants can provide to us that will show the sidewalk flow from where it is at 12 feet to where it may go and how it then returns, so we can see what the pedestrian experience would be like, from before the building to after the building or around the corner from the building, just so that there isn't this, what I'm assuming is going to be a shortening of the width of the sidewalk and what that will mean?
So it does continue the current street wall. So for instance, across the street, and we can provide this a follow-up, but certainly across the street, once you travel upwards, so that would be westward on Hamilton Avenue, it does maintain the sidewalk street wall. But we can show that if, from what the applicant is proposing, that it's not a deviation from what's currently existing, right? But we can...
Is that true even on Richmond Terrace? Or that's where it will be
now with
pitched at some point?
Now with Richmond Terrace, they don't struggle, and that's why I mentioned Hamilton Avenue and 55 Stuyvesant. Richmond Terrace, they are not struggling to meet that 12 feet, but they do, unfortunately, on Hamilton and on 55 Stuyvesant.
Okay, maybe a visual...
Yeah, I can share that.
Maybe I'm not... Since I can't envision it, I'm asking questions that may not be...
That would be better explained by a photograph, yes.
But a photograph might explain better. Okay.
Certainly. I can provide that.
I appreciate that, and okay, those were my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, thanks, Amy. This item certified. Thank you.
The third item on our agenda is a certification of a zoning map amendment in the Bronx, Community District 10, and our presenter is Nathan Heffron.
All right, Nathan.
Yes, can you hear me now? Okay, this is the presentation for 815 Hutchinson River Parkway rezoning. Here's an overview of the proposed project. The development site is located at 815 Hutchinson River Parkway in the Ferry Point section of the Throgsneck neighborhood in Community District 10 in the East Bronx. The applicant, MD Hutch Owner LLC, is seeking a zoning map amendment to rezone their site from an M1-2 manufacturing district to a C8-3 commercial district. The action is intended to facilitate a change in uses allowed on the site, more specifically to allow retail establishments greater than 10,000 square feet as of right. This slide shows the surrounding area with the development site outlined in a red dashed line. It lies south of the Bruckner interchange where the Cross Bronx and Bruckner expressways meet. To the east is St. Raymond Cemetery, a large historic cemetery. To the south is Ferry Point Golf Course and Park, as well as the Whitestone Bridge. To the west is Westchester Creek. For reference, to the south just beyond this map is where the recently approved Bally's Bronx Casino Resort is located in Ferry Point Park. Zooming into the development site again, outlined in a red dashed line, we see the low-density character of the Ferry Point area, where we have a cluster of single and multi-family homes to the south of the project area. Lower-density manufacturing uses exist between Brush Avenue and Westchester Creek and include a mix of single-story warehouses. To the north is the Monsignor Scanlon High School and Home Depot retail establishment. The development site itself is an irregularly shaped lot bounded by Lafayette Avenue to the north, Hutchinson River Parkway Service Road to the east, Wenner Place to the south, and Brush Avenue to the west. In terms of transit access, the closest subway is located approximately 2 miles to the north at Middletown Road, but is more locally served by the Q44 Select and Q50 bus routes which connect the Bronx to Jamaica and Flushing, Queens, respectively. Additionally, approximately 1.25 miles to the south is an NYC ferry terminal in Ferry Point Park. The site consists of the entirety of Block 5559, Lot 7501. The land uses in the area are primarily institutional and manufacturing uses, with heavier manufacturing districts and uses across Westchester Creek. However, immediately to the south of the site, there's a cluster of residential homes. Here's the development site. The 7.9-acre site is currently improved with a 2-story commercial building known as the Throgsneck Shopping Center, with approximately 875 accessory parking spaces and 10 loading berths. The shopping center contains approximately 98,300 zoning square feet, or 0.28 FAR of commercial space on the first floor, and about 312,000 gross square feet of space on the cellar level that does not count towards the zoning floor area calculation. The cellar level of the building contains the anchor retail store, a Target, and then 1 additional retail store, while the first floor contains other retail spaces, plus the lobby area for the cellar level Target store. Some of the other tenants include national retailers such as TJ Maxx and Petco, also some national chain restaurants, including Starbucks, Chipotle, Five Guys, and Applebee's, as well as other retailers, including a beauty supply store, a liquor store, and 3 medical use offices. Most of the parking is located above the cellar level and accessible via curb cuts on Lafayette Avenue and Hutchinson River Parkway Service Road. The cellar level provides additional parking, and the main loading area with 10 loading berths, which is accessible via 7 curb cuts on Brush Avenue. Here are some photos of the development site, marked in the photos with a red dashed line. These are images looking at the site to the south along Lafayette Avenue. Here are additional photos from the Brush Avenue side of the project area looking eastward. Additional off-street accessory parking and the 10 loading bays are accessible from this direction. Lastly, additional views from Wenner Place and the Hutchinson River Parkway Service Road looking to the east and north, with no public access to the shopping center from these perspectives. The applicant is proposing a zoning map amendment to rezone the site from an M1-2 zoning district to a C8-3 zoning district. The existing M1-2 district allows up to a 2.0 FAR for a variety of light manufacturing uses, such as repair shops, wholesale service, and storage facilities, as well as some other heavier industrial uses that meet specific performance standards. It also allows up to 2.0 FAR of commercial use, but most retail establishments, such as food stores over 10,000 square feet, are not permitted as of right and require a special permit from the CPC. The overall height in the M1-2 district is controlled by the sky exposure plane. The proposed C8-3 district, a general commercial district with the same bulk regulations and commercial FAR as the underlying M1-2 district. However, it differs from the M1-2 in that Manufacturing use is not permitted in the C8-3, and the community facility FAR increases from 4.8 to 6.5 FAR, and there's no limit on the size of permitted retail establishments. The proposed action would enable the conversion of portions of the current commercial shopping center on the site. Currently, retail spaces over 10,000 square feet are not allowed, and the requested action will remove this restriction. The applicant is not proposing any additional development or floor area at this time, as instead seeking flexibility to tenant larger retail spaces. In conclusion, the applicant is seeking a zoning map amendment to amend an M1-2 district to C8-3. The proposed action is not intended to facilitate new building construction, but would enable the development site to tenant large format commercial spaces. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thanks. Let me see if there are questions. Commissioner Osorio?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks so much for the presentation and for the materials. I thought they were very detailed, very useful. Two quick questions, really. I mean, one is, you point out in the report and in the presentation that this is outside of the current or the preliminary 100-year floodplain, which is correct, but it will be within the 100-year floodplain as soon as the 2080 projections. And so I know that we can't require anything right now in that regard, but I think I would strongly encourage you to work with the applicant to have a plan for that, number one. And then number two, I know that as of right, there could be a construction below grade right now, and then I wonder, you know, especially if that's going to be pursued, what are the provisions to anticipate potential flooding if that happens? And so I'm wondering if you can maybe expand a little bit and help me understand, you know, whether that has been discussed and or how can we be proactive to potentially mitigate flooding, especially if we're planning on developing below grade?
Yes, I think we can ask the applicant to see what they're specifically proposing outside of the land use action here, if there's either things that they're doing currently on site or propose in the future with respect to flooding and climate adaptation. So we can pass that along for the applicant.
Thank you very much. And then the other quick question is, so right now we're basically maintaining and expanding existing commercial uses, but there's no additional displacement of businesses, right?
That'd be right. Or it's meant to reconfigure the existing footprint, either subdividing or combining the existing spaces within the current facility.
Thank you. Perhaps one last question, if I understand. So given the amount of impermeable surface here and reading that, you know, a lot of the parking is going to remain, have there been any discussions about increasing the permeability of that parking lot? I mean, the parking uses can, you know, remain, but, you know, there could be improvements to facilitate that, given the proximity to the river and the potential flooding vulnerability that we just discussed.
Yes, I can ask the applicant about that if they see if they
okay,
are providing something or something has been provided, you know, before the original construction of the
Greatly appreciated. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner
Marin.
Okay. Commissioner, on Zoom.
Thank you, Chair. So thank you for the presentation. I have a couple of questions about the additional buildable square footage. So currently, just out of curiosity, how many square feet is Target underground? I know it's not countable. I realize that. Do we know?
Not sure the
important. We can get
size, but it's clearly larger than 10,000, though.
Yeah, we can get the information later. But I guess the genesis of the question is, what then happens to the balance of the facility if we are increasing the buildable FAR and in the CA designation allows them to lower parking? Would that allow for them to then build additional square footage above the existing Target store in the parking area?
I'm not sure we can follow up and
listen, I don't expect you to have the answers to the
questions.
Yeah, I don't expect the answers right away. I just, you know, the CA designation does increase the FAR. The CA designation does lower the parking requirement. And while not with any intent of building anything now, the upzoning does present the opportunity, from what I've read so far, for them to build more and lower the parking count. You know, there's many reasons for the questions. One of which is that, you know, Target seems to be on the out from this area. There's low inventory, and there's a new store coming on Bruckner right across from ShopRite. So it's obvious that in between the move, they're not stocking their store, because I'm finding difficulty, and so are a lot of the customers in this area. So it does bring to question for me, specifically knowing the area, know what's going on. What are the intentions behind the rezoning other than to go to a C8 and say, we're not going to build right now? There's some thought behind this, and if they can share some of that, that would be great.
Yeah, we can ask them to share more information about it, who they expect to be any potential future tenants. Yeah. And thank you for the question.
Thanks, Commissioner. Okay, we're certified on this one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item.
The fourth item on our agenda is a certification of zoning map and zoning text amendments in Brooklyn Community District 1, and our presenter is Ina Gusenfeld.
Hi, Ina. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Garodnick and Commissioners. Today I will be presenting the 200 Kent Avenue rezoning. This is an application by 206 Kent LLC and 206 Kent Investor LLC for two actions: a zoning map amendment to rezone an M14 district to an M14A R7X MX district, and a zoning text amendment to Appendix F to map an MIH area coterminous with the project area. These actions are intended to facilitate the conversion and expansion of an existing 5-story commercial building into a 14-story mixed-use building with just over 135,000 square feet of total floor area, including just over 93,000 square feet of residential use, with up to 143 dwelling units, approximately 42,000 square feet of ground floor retail, and 43 parking spaces in the cellar. The project area is located at 200 Kent Avenue in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, Community District 1. This is an aerial view showing the project area in the context of the North Williamsburg waterfront. The project area consists of a single lot, which occupies an entire block bounded by North 3rd Street, Kent Avenue, Metropolitan Avenue, and River Street. Kent Avenue is a 60-foot wide local truck route, and Metropolitan Avenue is an 80-foot wide street. North 3rd and River Streets are both 50 feet wide. The vacant area immediately to the west is slated for River Ring, a major development of 2 high-rise towers. Public transportation near the waterfront is provided by buses and ferries. The B32 bus makes stops along Kent Avenue, and the New York City Ferry North Williamsburg stop is in the North 5th Street Pier and Park. The Bedford Avenue L train station is located half a mile to the east. There are also multiple city bike stations around the project area. The surrounding area contains a mix of zoning districts. The project area itself is located within an M14 district that borders a small M14 R7X MX district to the south. To the west, a C6-2 district is mapped over portions of 3 waterfront blocks. East of Kent Avenue, there are multiple MX districts which encourage co-location of residential and industrial uses. Waterfront blocks to the north are mapped with R6 and R8 districts. An extant M31 district is mapped to the south, spanning North 1st Street to Grand Street. Several lots, though not the project area, are also within the Greenpoint Williamsburg waterfront access area. The surrounding area is home to a variety of residential, commercial, and industrial uses. Building types range from apartment towers to mid-rise mixed buildings and 1-story warehouses. The nearest open space resources are North 5th Street Pier and Park, Marsha P. Johnson State Park to the north, and Grand Ferry Park and Domino Park to the south, all located along the waterfront. I will now discuss the project area and development site in detail. The project area, originally zoned M31, was amended to M14 as part of the 2021 River Ring rezoning. The development site consists of a single 22,585 square foot lot, improved with a 5-story 44,814 square foot, 2.0 FAR, largely vacant commercial building with above ground screened parking as seen here. The existing building was designed as a base to support additional vertical development. At present, it contains 177 parking spaces built in accordance with the previous M31 regulations. This view from the southeast intersection of River Street and North 3rd Street shows multiple entrances to the ground floor Trader Joe's grocery store. This view looking east along North 3rd Street shows a relatively low-rise immediate context, including the adjacent 184 Kent Avenue. This view from the southwest intersection of Kent Avenue and North 3rd Street shows multiple entrances to the ground floor grocery store and the wraparound screened parking above. This view, looking south along Kent Avenue, shows a relatively low-rise immediate context, including 57 Metropolitan Avenue, with a 42-story 226 Kent Avenue in the background. This view from the northwest intersection of Kent and Metropolitan Avenues shows the ground floor retail conditions at 200 Kent and the wraparound screen parking above. This view, looking west along Metropolitan Avenue, shows a portion of the River Ring waterfront site to the west. This view from the northeast intersection of Metropolitan Avenue and River Street again shows the underutilized commercial frontage of 200 Kent and the wraparound screen parking above. And finally, this view looking north along River Street shows the adjacent 184 Kent Avenue building with a 41-story 1 North 4th Place development in the background. The proposed development is shown here against a silhouette of the future River Ring development. The project would expand the current 5-story commercial building to a 14-story mixed commercial residential building with 135,511 square feet total floor area, including 93,529 square feet of residential use with up to 143 dwelling units, 41,982 square feet of ground floor retail, and 43 parking spaces. The project site is within the coastal zone boundary, and the proposed development has been reviewed for consistency with a waterfront revitalization program. With regard to flood resiliency, the existing building, which will serve as a base for the proposed development, was constructed in 2018 and was not required to implement floodproofing measures. Pending further guidance from the Department of Buildings, it is expected that the proposed development will not have to comply with Appendix G, flood-resistant construction of the New York City Building Code. The zoning map amendment requested here seeks to change the existing M14 district on this block to an M14A R7X MX district. M14A and R7X are both contextual districts. The resulting MX district would permit up to 6.0 FAR for residential developments with MIH and up to 5.0 FAR for commercial, community facility, and light industrial uses. The applicant also proposes a zoning text amendment to Appendix F to map an MIH area coterminous with the project area with MIH options 1 and 2. This application requires a racial equity report on housing and opportunity. The proposed development is located in the Williamsburg and Greenpoint public use microdata area. The area median household income for this geography is $102,584, which is significantly higher than the median income for Brooklyn and New York City. This figure shows the distribution of the proposed development's 143 units by income, with an estimated 36 income-restricted units targeted to AMIs of 40%, 60%, and 80% to comply with MIH Option 1. In Figure 1 on this slide, we can see that the population of the Williamsburg and Greenpoint Puma is predominantly white and Hispanic Latino of any race. At 61%, the percentage of white residents exceeds the borough and citywide figures of 35% and 31%, respectively. At 22%, the Hispanic Latino population is higher than the borough figure of 19%, but lower than the citywide figure of 28%. Figure 2 here shows the percent change in race and ethnicity in the Puma from 2010 to 2020. The Asian non-Hispanic population experienced a growth of 57%, compared to 43% borough-wide and 34% citywide. Though the borough and city's Black non-Hispanic population declined by 9% and 5% respectively in that period, it grew by 19% in the Puma. The Hispanic population declined by 3%, compared to borough and city growth figures of 4% and 7% respectively. The white population grew by 18%, compared to an increase of 8% borough-wide and no change citywide. Figure 14 here shows the percent change in housing supply and production from 2010 to 2024. In that time span, housing units in this area increased by 41%, while the population increased by 18%, showing that housing unit production outpaced population growth and far exceeded both borough and citywide housing production figures. The proposed development would add to the supply of new income-restricted housing in one of Brooklyn's fastest-growing community districts. In summary, this is a private application for a zoning map amendment from M14 to M14A R7X MX and a zoning text amendment to Appendix F to map an MIH area coterminous with a project area. Together, these actions would facilitate the conversion and expansion of an existing 5-story commercial building into a 14-story mixed-use building with approximately 135,000 square feet of total floor area, including approximately 94,000 square feet of residential use, up to 143 units, of which 29 to 43 would be pursuant to MIH, approximately 42,000 square feet of ground floor retail, including the existing grocery store, and 43 parking spaces in the cellar. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. We're going to start with Commissioner Benjamin.
Hi, thank you for that very thorough presentation. I had a couple of questions, though. One about the commercial uses. You seem to indicate, or the writing seemed to indicate, that it was not fully occupied, the current building, that the Trader Joe's occupies the basement and part of the first floor, but that the rest of the 5-story building may be fairly vacant.
Right.
So, building on top of that, what is the intention for those vacant floors?
So first, I want to point out that there is not expected to be any disruption in the course of construction to the existing ground floor Trader Joe's. So the construction would be staged in such a way that the business would continue undisturbed. My understanding is that this development would provide an impetus for reactivation of the other commercial floors in the building, and in particular, the potential elimination of that wraparound parking that is underutilized above the grocery store, and that could then be opened up to allow tenancy by other complementary commercial uses.
I mean, this is a very traveled location. There were lots of people all the time, so when I see that the commercial is not very useful and is not being well used, I wonder what the developer is going to do that will change that, or will we just have Trader Joe on the ground floor, 4 empty floors, and then residential is my concern. I know that's not something you can really answer, but if you can let them know that that is a concern as to why we're doing this. When we did a rezoning fairly recently, the building is fairly new. I think it was 2018 or 2019 when it was completed.
2018, yes.
So I'm concerned that the plans that the developer has have not been realized so far, and how the new plan will be better put forward. And then my second issue is if they could provide the unit distribution for the affordable units, how many studios, how many 1-bedrooms, how many 2-bedrooms, that would be helpful.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Crowell.
Just to build on what Commissioner Benjamin was saying, it might be helpful to know whether the developer has a concept where the residential would somehow inform a greater utilization of the commercial. I don't know if there's a direct relationship between some of that use.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Sorio.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much for the presentation, and it's good to see you. Thank you so much for addressing our questions. Two quick things. I'm glad to hear that the city has suggested that the building be compliant with Appendix G, even though it's outside of the existing current floodplain. The projections show that this is necessary. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. I also just wanted to make a note. I understand that the race equity report is focuses on the current conditions, but we can't forget the history of displacement that has happened here. And so I would appreciate making a note about that. My question builds on Commissioner Benjamin's question and has to do with, from the department's point of view, enabling more housing here and reducing perhaps some of the infrastructure that was deemed necessary when we were considering additional FAR elsewhere. Maybe a potential question, and I'm wondering, to what extent do you think that we're keeping that balance, or how do we know if we may be sort of like compromising what back then was considered necessary in order to enable more housing? I understand that this is a high opportunity area in terms of maximizing affordable housing, but at the same time, when I read that we're just sticking with the MIH levels, I wonder, to what extent can we maximize public benefit here?
Understood. I would imagine that that's probably a discussion with City Council kind of further down the line. But I'm sure the applicant will have more to add in terms of affordability and the particular bedroom mix. I think it's probably good that there are 2 bedrooms here as well. So there are more family-sized units that would, be targeted toward those AMI bands where there's a high need.
Thank you. One last question, which is in terms of the parking to be built below grade. I'm wondering again if there's an opportunity to maximize the public benefit in terms of considering infrastructure that can provide a service to the community in the event of flooding. So in the past, other proposals over here, Domino, even River Ring, have suggested the construction or the facilitation of infrastructure that could, provide a larger service. And so I'm wondering here, because there's going to be underground parking that could actually serve as holding tanks or anything of that matter. Again, I'm thinking about the public benefit that this investment could provide, and there's really interesting precedents from abroad on how we can use this type of, the redevelopment in this case to build infrastructure against potential flooding mitigation.
So thank you for that question. And I actually want to use the opportunity to address both a concern you've raised and a concern Commissioner Benjamin has raised. So there is actually no ground disturbance expected with this development. The 43 parking units are what will be left over in the cellar once the above ground parking is eliminated. So they're already there in the cellar, but as you can see in this final image I have here, the fenestration is radically different from what currently exists, because in the future scenario, that screen has been removed because the parking is no longer occupying that upper story. So it is perhaps more accurate to say that what's being done here is a reduction in existing parking rather than new parking being provided in the cellar.
So the 43 below grade accessory parking spaces are already built?
Yes, and they will remain. The above ground parking will be removed. Now, there may be a possibility that the existing parking may be reconfigured, especially based on, different needs as this project is constructed and there's now a residential population here.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Benjamin?
Yeah, I did want to correct something that I said, which is that I asked for the unit distribution and I realized I have it.
Okay.
It wasn't in your information, and it's 8 studios, 23 one-bedrooms, and 5 two-bedrooms.
Great. Thank you. Okay, we're certified. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Question.
I'm sorry. Wait, come on back for 1 second. Commissioner, I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I understand.
Go right ahead. Go right ahead. Yep.
So, the removing the screening on that, is that just one level of parking or 2?
I think from the exterior, it appears as one level. I think the applicant can clarify, maybe by showing the existing floor plans, what that actually looks like.
That would be helpful. Opening up the walls to more visuals is actually more appealing in that, because those blocks are sort of narrow. How many and it would be also interesting to know how many square feet are there once the parking lot spots are removed, and what the possibility of tenants may be. I know we're saying commercial, but it would be better, but it would be better to understand one commercial, two commercials, can it be split up into different commercials? Having some visuals on the floor plan would also be helpful. I also wanted to make comment on, you made a statement that there's more family size units, but having 5 2-bedrooms is really not having more family size units. This is a neighborhood that is yelling for larger size units. I mean, we hear it all the time from this corridor. So if the applicant would consider that, that would be appreciated as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Vice Chair Knuckles.
I don't know if you mentioned it before. The MIH levels, what are they seeking?
Yes, so the representation in the RER is MIH option 1. Right, so targeted to an average of 60% AMI with a mandatory 10% targeted to 40% AMI of the floor area.
Great, thank you. Okay, now we're certified. Thank you.
Thank you.
The 5th item on our agenda is a certification of zoning map and zoning text amendments in Brooklyn Community District 3, and our presenter is Demetrius McLester.
Chair, I'm recused on this one.
Commissioner Soria is recused. Demetrius, welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Good afternoon, Chair Garodnick and Commissioners. Cool. This is an application from Kent Development LLC and 123 Taffy LLC for a zoning map amendment from an M11 zoning district to an M14 R6A zoning district, and a zoning text amendment to designate an MIH area in order to facilitate 2 residential developments totaling 75 dwelling units. The first development at 862 to 868 Kent Avenue is proposed to be 9 stories with 56 dwelling units, 14 of which would be income restricted, while the second development at 123 to 125 Taffy Place is proposed to be 8 stories with 19 dwelling units, 5 of which would be income restricted. The project area is located in the Bedford-Stuyvesant neighborhood of Brooklyn Community District 3. This area view is facing north, showing the development site in blue and the proposed project area in orange. Both are bounded by Myrtle Avenue to the south, Park Avenue to the north, Taffy Place to the west, and Kent Avenue to the east. Myrtle Avenue is 75 feet in width and serves as an important east-west mixed-use corridor with ground floor retail activity and medium density apartment buildings. Kent Avenue has a narrower width of 60 feet, and Taffy Place has a width of 50 feet. In regard to public transit, the project area is approximately half a mile from G-Train subway access at Bedford-Nostrand Station to the south and Myrtle Willoughby Station to the east. Franklin Avenue and Classen Avenue both run parallel to Kent Avenue and are northbound and southbound corridors. On Classen and Franklin, the B48 bus line provides service from Greenpoint to Prospect Lefferts Gardens, while the B54 line runs east-west from downtown Brooklyn to Ridgewood along Myrtle Avenue. The project area is also close to Taffy Playground, a 1.8-acre park owned and operated by the Parks Department, and directly to the south of Public and Intermediate School 157. The surrounding area contains a mix of uses, including residential, community facilities, mixed-use residential, commercial, and industrial. Residential uses are primarily 3 to 4 story multifamily walk-up buildings along the mid-blocks, with taller buildings along the wider avenues that usually span 6 to 7 stories in height. Industrial uses consist of 1 to 2 story warehouse buildings, mainly located to the north and to the west of the project site. Some important landmarks in this area include previously mentioned Taffy Playground immediately to the west of the project area that contains multiple sport courts, and Myrtle Village Green, located a block to the south that provides the neighborhood residents with locally grown produce and composting services. Notably, the 2012 Bedford-Stuyvesant North rezoning was passed and mapped contextual districts in this area to preserve the neighborhood character. And most recently, the 446 Park Avenue private application, which was approved in 2023, mapped M14R6A at the intersection of Park Avenue and Franklin Avenue to facilitate a mixed-use development. In this slide, we'll dive deeper into the context of the current conditions within the project area. Project area is currently zoned M11, which allows industrial and commercial uses up to 1 FAR and community facility uses up to 2.4 FAR. M11 has a maximum base height of 30 feet, after which the height is controlled by a sky exposure plane. Off-street parking is generally required to be one space for every 300 feet of commercial and one space for every 1,000 feet of industrial. Despite the M11 zoning, a majority of the lots in the project area are either multifamily walk-up buildings, multifamily elevator buildings, or mixed-use residential buildings with commercial. The highlighted lots in the slide of 133 Taffy Place, 137 Taffy Place, and 876 Kent Avenue have all received BSA variances within the last 10 to 12 years in order to allow residential uses. This is a bird's eye view of the project area and development sites. The project area contains 15 total lots, which are mostly pre-existing residential or mixed-use buildings with ground floor commercial, except for the development sites themselves, which are currently warehouse buildings. Now I'll walk you through a few photos with the existing conditions. To start, this is a view of the project area and first development site at 862 Kent Avenue on lot 49 facing northwest. The first development site in blue comprises a one-story, 12,500 square foot warehouse building. A portion of the building is currently unoccupied manufacturing facility space, and the other portion of the building is used to host events. This is a view of Kent Avenue facing south, which is the development site and project area in blue and orange to the right, respectively. The project area consists of a multifamily walk-up building. Multifamily walk-up buildings range from 3 to 4 stories in height. This is a view of the second development site at 123 Taffy Place on lot 9 facing northeast, which is improved with a 2-story, 6,680 square foot commercial building currently occupied by a commercial auto broker business. And finally, this is a view of the second development site at 123 Taffy Place facing the south. The applicant proposes 2 developments totaling 75 units. The first development at 862 Kent Avenue would contain 56 dwelling units, 14 of which would be income restricted with MIH units averaging 60% AMI and below in accordance with MIH option 1. The development at 862 Kent Avenue would have a minimum base height of 40 to 65 feet and then rise to a height of 94 feet. The second development at 123 Taffy Place would contain 19 dwelling units, 5 of which would be income restricted with the MIH units averaging 60% AMI and below in accordance with MIH option 1. The development would have a minimum base height of 40 to 65 feet and then rise to a height of 84 feet. To facilitate the developments, the applicant is requesting 2 actions, the first of which being a zoning map amendment to change the M11 district to an M14R6A district along a 240-foot long mid-block section starting 100 feet north of Myrtle Avenue. The proposed zoning district of M14R6A permits a maximum residential FAR of 3.90 within a mandatory inclusionary housing area, as well as a maximum permitted FAR of 3.0 for community facilities and 2.0 for industrial and commercial uses. The base height can be between 40 feet and 65 feet with a maximum build height of 95 feet. Off-street parking is not required for all uses, including residential, due to this being located in the inner transit zone. In addition, the applicant requests a zoning text amendment to amend Appendix F and establish an MIH area with options 1 and 2. Option 1 requires that at least 25% of residential floor area must be permanently income restricted and affordable to households with an average of 60% AMI. Option 2 requires at least 30% of residential floor area be permanently income restricted and affordable to households with an AMI of 80%. This application will require a racial equity report because it would increase the permitted residential floor area by at least 50,000 square feet. The median household income for Brooklyn Bedford-Stuyvesant is approximately $53,000. Although this area has experienced a population increase of 14% between 2010 and 2020, new household production increased by only 11%. Between 2015 and 2019, an estimated 28% of households were severely rent burdened, spending 50% or more of their income on rent. Population of Community District 3 is predominantly Black non-Hispanic and white non-Hispanic, with a percentage of Asian non-Hispanic residents at 4%, compared to 14% for the borough and 16% for New York City. Black Hispanic population is around 40% compared to 27% for the borough, 20% for the city. Between the years of 2010 and 2020, the area's Asian population increased by 147%, while the white population increased by 130%, and the Black population decreased by 24%. In conclusion, Kent Development LLC and 123 Taffy LLC are seeking a zoning map amendment to change an M11 zoning district to an M14 R6A zoning district, and a zoning text amendment to map an MIH area in order to facilitate 8- and 9-story residential developments totaling 75 units in the Bedford-Stuyvesant neighborhood, Community District 3. This concludes my presentation. Happy to field any questions.
Great, thank you very much. Commissioner Benjamin.
2 quick questions. One, if you could ask the developer for the unit distribution. And 2, you mentioned that there was a residential building on site 2, I believe, and that there's a business, an auto business inside site 1. Are those what's happening with those tenants?
We have not gotten any information from the applicant in regards to the commercial broker business that's there or the hosting for events. I can reach out to the applicant and see if I can give some more information for you for that.
And the residential building?
The residential building for, I'm assuming you mean for 876 Kent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a part of the project area, not the development site.
Okay.
It's the only, not the only, but the most recent building there that has rent stabilized units in it. I don't know the rent stabilized unit count, but in terms of the development sites themselves, for the Kent Avenue portion of the site, it's just one big manufacturing building. And for the Taffy Place site, I believe the broker business is next to it, but I can double check and get that information.
Okay, and in terms of when you say it's part of the development site, but not part of the development, they're using the FAR?
No, the development site separate from the project area.
Okay. That's it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thanks, Commissioner. Vice Chair Knuckles?
So is this a lot merger for purposes of rear yard requirements, or are there rear yard requirements here?
Not any rear yard requirements that I know of, but I can go back and get the info and send it to you.
So is it a lot merger of the 2 parcels, essentially?
It's 2 developments.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Alex, what journal?
Hi, Jonah, I'm from Brooklyn office. No lot merger. So that we're aware of, the applicant team can confirm. They're just 2 separate sites, but they're not merging with any adjacent lots that we're aware of.
So what are the rear yard requirements?
I believe we'll confirm, but I believe
30 feet?
30 feet, but under the recent city of yes for housing opportunity. I believe it may be 20 feet for a certain portion. But then because a portion of this was like a through lot, that also has unique rules. But I think we can confirm with the applicant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Vice Chairman. Okay, we're certified. Thank you.
The 6th item on our agenda is a certification of zoning map and zoning text amendments in Queens, Community District 2, and our presenter is Catherine Crawford.
Good afternoon.
Hello. Okay. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, good. All right. Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Katie Crawford. Today, I'm presenting the rezoning application for 2131 46th Avenue, which is located in the Long Island City neighborhood of Queens Community District 2. This is a private application by 2131 Holdings, LLC, for two actions: a zoning map amendment to change the existing M14R6B districts to an R7X district with C25 commercial overlay, and a zoning text amendment to Appendix F to map MIH options 1 and 2 over the project area. The proposed actions would facilitate the redevelopment of 2131 46th Avenue with a new 11-story mixed-use building with approximately 70 dwelling units, of which 18 would be permanently income restricted under option 1 of the city's mandatory inclusionary housing program. The ground floor would include space for retail or community facility use. No accessory parking spaces are required. However, bike and vehicle parking are proposed in the building's cellar. This aerial view of the project area shows the surrounding context of the neighborhood. The project area is located on 46th Avenue between 21st Street and Jackson Avenue. 46th Ave is considered a narrow street, while 21st Street and Jackson Avenue are considered wide streets. The project area is located about 2 blocks south of the recently adopted LIC neighborhood plan rezoning area. The area directly surrounding the development site is characterized by low to medium density residential and mixed-use buildings, consistent with the underlying zoning. Higher density mixed-use development is found along Jackson Avenue and further north towards Court Square. The project is located within the inner transit zone and is well served by transit. The 7, E, F, and G lines are all accessible within about 2 blocks of the project area. The Q63, Q67, and Q102 have stops nearby on Jackson Avenue, while numerous other bus routes are accessible nearby. Murray Playground and Athletic Field serve the area as open space, while supplemental space is available at the 46th Avenue Pedestrian Plaza, McKenna Triangle, and the LIC Courthouse. The subject block is predominantly zoned M14R6B and is characterized by 2 to 4-story residential buildings. To the west of the project area, an R6A district is mapped along 21st Street, permitting slightly higher density along the major corridor. East and south of the project area, Jackson Avenue, another neighborhood corridor, is currently zoned R7X with a C25 commercial overlay. This mix of zoning districts reflects the transitioning land use character of the Long Island City neighborhood. In 1961, the area was mapped M3-1 to reflect the existing heavy industrial uses in the area. This forced long-standing residential uses into nonconformance. In 1981, the Special Hunters Point Mixed-Use District was created to legalize existing residential and heavy manufacturing uses while permitting new, lighter manufacturing uses. In 1995, the mid-blocks were rezoned to M14, while 21st Street and Jackson Avenue were rezoned to mid-density residential districts with commercial overlays. These changes were made to better reflect the lighter industrial uses in the area while encouraging growth along the key corridors. In 2004, a subsequent rezoning established the Special Long Island City Mixed-Use District and created new regulations for the Hunters Point subdistrict. This rezoning replaced standalone M districts by creating paired districts that encourage a mix of residential, commercial, and community facility uses while continuing to permit a wide range of light manufacturing uses. Zooming further into the project area, we see the development site outlined in solid red. The site is currently improved with a single-story structure occupied by TD Bank and an associated surface parking lot. The project site is located directly across the street from MoMA PS1. Starting on 46th Avenue, facing northeast, we see the project area on the left outlined in red. In the background, we can see several residential towers, including 5 Points on the right, the 11-story Prime building, which neighbors the project area, One Court Square, and Skyline Tower are on the left. Remaining on 46th Avenue, this view looks in the opposite direction, showing the development site on the right side of the street and MoMA PS1 on the left. Down the block on the right, we see development consistent with the existing M14R6B zoning. This photo was taken from the development site, looking southwest across 46th Avenue towards MoMA PS1. Staying at the development site, this view looks southeast across 46th Avenue. We see the pedestrian plaza located at the corner of 46th Ave and Jackson Ave in front of MoMA PS1's main entrance. As proposed, the requested actions would facilitate the development of an 11-story, approximately 80,850 square foot mixed-use building with 70 units. 18 would be set aside as permanently income restricted under MIH Option 1. The applicant is proposing around 8,000 square feet of ground floor space for retail or community facility use. As proposed, there would be 22 parking spaces and 35 bicycle parking spaces in the cellar. The cellar would be accessible from the existing curb cut off 46th Avenue. The residential lobby and retail or community facility entrance would be also accessible from 46th Avenue. The existing M14R6B paired district permits both manufacturing and residential uses with a maximum residential FAR of 2.4, maximum manufacturing, commercial, and community facility FAR of 2.0. R7X is a contextual district typically mapped along major thoroughfares, including Jackson Avenue and Long Island City. R7X allows a maximum residential FAR of 6 for MIH developments, maximum community facility FAR of 5, and a maximum building height of 145 feet. The C25 commercial overlay allows commercial FAR of 2 when mapped in R6 through R10 districts. The project area is located within the inner transit zone and has no required accessory parking for residential uses. The C25 commercial overlay does not have a parking requirement for commercial or community facility uses. The proposed zoning text, The proposed zoning text amendment to Appendix F will map MIH options 1 and 2. Option 1 requires 25% of dwelling units to be income restricted at an average of 60% AMI, while Option 2 requires 30% of dwelling units to be income restricted at an average of 80% AMI. As indicated by the red line and seen in the WRP, the project area is partially located in the 0.2% annual chance floodplain. As such, it is not required to follow Appendix G standards for flood resilient construction. However, the applicant is electing to employ a number of flood resilient design and construction techniques. A WRP document has been prepared in conjunction with this application. The applicant is subject to the racial equity report requirements since it seeks approval for an increase in permitted residential floor area of at least 50,000 square feet. Between 2019 and 2023, the median household income in Queens Community District 2 was approximately $93,300. This was greater than the estimates for the Borough of Queens and New York City at about $85,600 and $79,700, respectively. The estimated monthly rent of income-restricted units for households earning between 40 and 80% AMI ranges from $1,130 for a studio up to $2,920 for a two-bedroom unit. The estimated average income for households earning between 40 and 80% AMI ranges from $45,400 for a single-person household up to $129,600 for a four-person household. The project area is located within the Long Island City, Sunnyside, and Woodside public use microdata area, home to approximately 162,150 total residents. Approximately 35% identify as Asian non-Hispanic, 3% identify as Black non-Hispanic, 30% identify as Hispanic or Latino of any race, and 29% identify as white non-Hispanic. Between 2010 and 2020, the total population in this area increased 22%, substantially higher than the 8% growth seen at the borough and city level. All groups saw increases in population during this period, in particular the Black non-Hispanic population group, which grew by 77%. In summary, the applicant proposes a zoning map amendment from an M14R6B zoning district to R7X district with C25 commercial overlay, and a zoning text amendment to Appendix F to establish a mandatory inclusionary housing area with options 1 and 2 to facilitate the development of an approximately 80,850 square foot mixed-use building containing 70 dwelling units, including 18 income-restricted units and 8,000 square feet of ground floor retail or community facility use. Thank you. This is the end of my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Let me see if there are questions for you. Commissioner Osorio?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. Just a quick question. So, in looking at the flooding maps, there is a projected vulnerability here, and so I'm wondering if can you share a little bit in what ways have this come up, or can we see a little bit more about that once we see it again?
I think I mentioned in my presentation, but the applicant is not required to provide or to abide by the Appendix G standards, but they have elected to actually include some of those in their development. So, for example, they're building their residential floors out of the flood zone, and I can also follow up with more details. I'll have the applicant follow up with more details.
Thank you so much. I would really appreciate that.
Mr. Benjamin?
And for this one also, if you could get from the applicant the unit distribution of the MIH units and whether they're choosing option 1 or 2.
I can confirm they are choosing option 1, but I will be sure to have them provide a unit mix.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you
We
so
are now
much.
certified.
The 7th item on our agenda is a certification of zoning map and zoning text amendments in Queens, Community District 7, and our presenter is Joy Chen.
Hi, Joy.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair, Commissioners. I'll be presenting 15806 Northern Boulevard rezoning. This is a private application by Northern 158 Holding, LLC in the Flushing neighborhood of Murray Hill, Queens, Community District 7. The applicant proposes a zoning map amendment to change an R5B C12 and R2 district to an R7A C24 and R7A district to facilitate the development of a new 10-story mixed-use building and a zoning text amendment to map a mandatory inclusionary housing area. This is an aerial view of the project area showing its location at 15806 Northern Boulevard in the Murray Hill neighborhood of between downtown Flushing and Murray Hill. It is located approximately a half-mile northeast of 14714 Northern Boulevard, which you might recall the Commission certified in January. Northern Boulevard is a major east-west arterial thoroughfare spanning from Long Island City to the west to the Nassau County border to the east. This portion of Northern Boulevard is primarily built with local retail and a lot of commercial uses, as well as medium-density residential buildings. The project area is located in the outer transit zone. The closest train is the LIRR Broadway station, which is located at 162nd Street, 4 blocks away. Numerous buses also make stops along Northern Boulevard, with a stop directly across the street from the development site, providing direct service between Little Neck to the north and downtown Flushing Main Street to the south. The rezoning area was designated as an R4 C12 and an R2 zoning district in 1961. In 2005, during the East Flushing rezoning, the R4 C12 portion was changed to R5B C12 and reduced to 100 feet from Northern Boulevard. A low-density residential R12A district is immediately to the north of Northern Boulevard, and there are medium-density R5B districts located to the east and west along Northern Boulevard. C1 and C12 commercial overlays are also mapped along Northern Boulevard, reflecting this very commercial nature of Northern Boulevard. And the commercial core of downtown Flushing, with its high concentration of high-rise commercial, mixed-use, and residential buildings, are located approximately 20 blocks to the west of the rezoning area. This map shows the project area and 3 tax lots that are part of the rezoning area. Lot 16 is an approximately 14,142 square foot corner and interior lot. This is the one owned by the applicant in the darker red. It was formerly improved with a 2-story commercial medical office building with unenclosed parking. This building was demolished in December, and there's a construction fence now surrounding this corner at 158th Street and Northern Boulevard. Lot 1, which is right adjacent to it, Lot 25, which is adjacent to it along Northern Boulevard, is an approximately 17,945 square foot corner and interior lot, improved with a 2-story commercial building called Galaxy Plaza. This building has a very wide range of commercial service uses, like a barbecue, various Korean barbecues, a taekwondo school, martial arts school, beauty parlors. So there's a lot of commercial uses right along there next to the development site. And then at the very bottom of the screen, that is lot 1, which is an approximately 11,500 square foot interior lot improved with a 2-story community facility, which is an Islamic center. This shows you the local context, and you'll see the development site at the corner of 158th Street and Northern Boulevard, which is currently surrounded by a construction fence. And directly next to it is that 2-story Galaxy Plaza, which has a long history with a lot of local retail uses in that building. And then in the rear, to the east of 59th Street, where Depot Road, it meets the railroad right-of-way, is the Islamic Center. Here are some site photos. The proposed actions would facilitate, let me just show you the site photos first. So this is Northern Boulevard showing the Galaxy Plaza with the development site to the right. And then this is a view of the south side of Northern Boulevard facing southeast from 158th Street with the construction fence to the right, development site to the right. And the development site is here facing northeast from 158th Street. This is a view of the sidewalk on the west side of 159th Street. So if you go down this block, there's a dead end, and you'll see the railroad right-of-way and Depot Road. And then the rezoning area is to the right. The proposed actions would facilitate the development of a new 10-story mixed-use building with approximately 70,765 square feet of floor area, or 5 FAR. The proposed development would have approximately 61,483 square feet of residential floor area with approximately 76 dwelling units. Pursuant to the MIH program, 19 units would be permanently affordable pursuant to MIH Option 1. This is an image of the illustrative ground floor plan showing that the proposed development would have approximately 9,282 square feet of commercial ground floor for local retail use, and the entrance would be accessible from Northern Boulevard. The entrance to the residential use would be from both Northern Boulevard and 158th Street. And the entrance to the parking would also be via an existing curb cut on 158th Street. This is a second floor plan showing some of the unit breakdown with a mix of 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom units, as well as recreational space and outdoor rooftop space for the residents. The proposed zoning map amendment would amend portions of an R5B C12 district to R7A C24 district. The new R7A C24 district will be mapped at 100 feet in depth from Northern Boulevard on block 5277 and would encompass the development site. In addition, the area beyond 100 feet that is currently zoned R2 would be amended to R7A. The proposed R7A C24 district is a mixed-use district intended for wide streets in relative proximity to transit. This contextual quality housing district typically produces high lot coverage buildings between 7 to 10 stories with a maximum FAR of 5 with MIH. The district permits a street wall of 40 to 85 feet and a maximum building height of 115 feet, and a maximum 2 FAR is permitted for commercial uses. Parking varies for commercial uses, and for residential uses, the parking requirement is 15%. The parking requirement is waived for affordable units in the outer transit zone. The proposed zoning text amendment would make the project area applicable to the MIH program, and the applicant is proposing to map MIH option 1, which would set aside 25% of floor area for permanently affordable housing at 60% AMI, and 19 income restricted units are proposed. This application requires a racial equity report because it would increase the residential floor area by at least 50,000 square feet. The AMI for Community District 7 is approximately 70,908, which is lower than Queens and New York City AMIs. The applicant proposes to provide 8 units at 40% AMI, 3 units at 60% AMI, and 8 units at 80% AMI, with estimated monthly rents ranging from $1,130 for studios to $1,690 for 3-bedroom units at estimated average incomes ranging from $45,400 for 1-person household to $70,000 for a 5-person household. Of the approximately 270,930 residents within Community District 7, 57% identified as Asian non-Hispanic, 2% identified as Black non-Hispanic, 18% identified as Hispanic, and 21% identified as white non-Hispanic. Between 2010 and 2020, the area saw a 9% increase in total population. This included increases in the Asian non-Hispanic and Hispanic population and decreases in the Black and white non-Hispanic and white population. In summary, the proposed action of a zoning map change from an R5B C12 district and R2 district to an R7A C24 district and R7A district with MIH would facilitate the development of a new mid-rise mixed-use building with 76 new dwelling units, including 19 permanently income-restricted units, as well as new local retail use on Northern Boulevard, a wide commercial corridor in Murray Hill, approximately 1 mile to the northeast of downtown Flushing. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Seeing none, this item is certified. Thank you very much, Joy. Appreciate it.
The 8th item on our agenda is laid over. Moving on to the 9th item on our agenda is a pre-hearing review of a special permit in Manhattan Community District 5, and our presenter is Ezra Moser.
All right.
Hello, Ezra.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon. So yes, this is a pre-hearing review. I will provide a update on a private application at 509 Madison Avenue by 509 Madison Avenue LLC. So this was last presented to the Commission when it was certified in December of 2025. And the application seeks a special permit pursuant to Section 74-152 for the conversion of an existing commercial office building to a transient hotel. So that's what Section 74-152 is for, is special permits for a hotel in a commercial district. So this is located in Manhattan Community District 5. Okay, so this is a sectional view of the building as proposed. It's facing west with West 53rd Street to the left and West 52nd Street to the right. The proposed hotel would occupy portions of the cellar and ground floor and the entirety of the remaining floors above grade. There's a little bit of space for retail on Madison Avenue. But yes, this is represented by the yellow hatched area in the diagram. The proposed hotel would contain about 137,000 square feet of floor area and 96 rooms. And the hotel would have its own dedicated ground floor lobby, which would be located on West 53rd Street. So, as I alluded to, in order to carry this out, the applicant's requesting a special permit pursuant to 74-152, which is for transient hotels in commercial districts, to facilitate this office to hotel conversion for the building located at 509 Madison Avenue. Pursuant to 74-152, the applicant will ensure that the site plan addresses the new use to ensure no conflicts are created with adjacent uses, and that it won't result in excessive vehicular or pedestrian congestion. also that it will not impair future use or development in the area. These are the findings for the section. Very briefly, on January 8th, Community Board 5 passed through a resolution recommending that the application be approved without conditions. 42 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstaining. And then on February 23rd, Manhattan Borough President Hoylman Segal also approved or supported approval of the application. I note that Community Board 5 had minor comments that the BP also echoed, encouraging the applicant to plant street trees with agency approval permitting from DOT to maintain the existing bike infrastructure. Specifically, there's a city bike station, which the applicant plans to, and to work with MTA to improve the on-site subway entrance. Yes, there's an entrance to the 5th Avenue, 53rd Street station, and to my knowledge, the applicant is going to be providing new finishes for that entrance in conjunction with MTA's agency approval, of course. That concludes the presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Gold.
Hi, excuse me, thank you. Just wanted to follow through on a couple of the things that you said that, you know, for the findings. So first is the undue vehicular and also the pedestrian congestion. Just, I want to talk about that for a second. So it sounds like they're going to use 53rd Street, which is a bit narrower than Madison First. Second, it's a through street where you're not allowed to turn off of, but it's also a very busy, very well-trafficked street. So talk, if you can, first about how we're thinking about that, because 53rd Street, I would say to you, I'd be more inclined or would have expected they would have used the Madison Avenue entrance.
Yeah, so to my knowledge, they're going to be working with DOT to establish pickup and drop-off zones on 53rd Street to reduce that traffic impact to the through street, and, you know, ideally alleviating congestion, provide safe access to the hotel. And in terms of like operations, they're going to be doing loading at night. So that's the extent that I know of it, but the applicant will be here on Wednesday to speak to the operations and more specific.
Yeah, I was going to say it'd be super helpful because, I mean, I'm just going to talk that through for a second, really for the benefit of the applicant when they're here on Wednesday, not for you. But know that corner extremely well. And right now you have three things. You alluded to really two of them. One is thinking about this street, which, you know, arguably could be 2 lanes. There's a long city bike setup, which you alluded to, so that kind of takes a lane. There really isn't a parking lane there. But as a matter of fact, there's also the subway entrance, also to your point. So you basically have this kind of narrow-ish, by Manhattan standards, passage, which is, as I say, it's a through street, right? 53rd Street is a through street. And so beyond that, not only the way I see it, and again, for them to talk about, not only would the city bike station have to move, but also DOT presumably would have to make some other either arrangements or agreements because, I mean, it doesn't sound like 53rd Street's going to become not a through street, if you will. So would definitely be interested in getting color both on the vehicle situation, but then also, to your point on the subway, it's a decently traveled subway station, and it's right smack, as I remember, actually I looked at it this morning, right smack about where they're going to have this lobby and this entrance. So, presumably maybe there's a plan with MTA to relocate it. Maybe we know about it, maybe we don't. Maybe it moves further, down the block. But if it doesn't, it literally is right in the middle of where they're going to have, an entrance. So there's a lot there that would like to, understand a little better.
Definitely. I mean, to my knowledge, they're going to retain the entrance as is. There is a lot going on there. They've said also variously that they would have bellhops and staff who would be trying to ferry, folks getting dropped off into the hotel as quickly as possible. But of course, that doesn't negate the very obvious, kind of mix of uses and, high trafficness of that corner, so. good
Yeah,
question.
and I mean, I guess I go a step further, because as you think about it, yes, there's an Omni Hotel a block away. It's a half a block away, actually. It really fronts the same building. And that Omni does have the benefit of two parking lanes. There's a parking lane, a bike lane, but then there are two areas, and there's one spot where cars can stop. It still winds up being pretty busy and congested, with that condition. And then let's just also remember that often a hotel requires parking lanes, not just for the drop-off, but, somewhere to park the cars somewhere nearby. And as I think about it, maybe they have an arrangement, but it's definitely something, often with the Omni, you see people pull up, they empty their vehicles, there's a spot that's up, and then someone, I guess, takes it around the corner to because there's no parking on the lot there. And I don't think this facility has a parking facility either, is it?
No, it doesn't. They're valeting with they have arrangements with, garages in the area, to my knowledge. But yeah, I mean, I think that the weeds of these operations are a great question to the applicant, because indeed, it is a busy corner.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. We'll pick this one up on Wednesday.
Yeah, great.
Thanks, Ezra.
Thank you.
The 10th item on our agenda is a pre-hearing review of zoning map and zoning text amendments in Brooklyn Community District 10. Our presenter is Katie Martin.
All right, Katie, welcome.
Hello. Okay, perfect. So good afternoon, Chair Garodnick and Commissioners. This is a pre-hearing presentation for the 9201 4th Avenue rezoning, which certified on November 17th, 2025. This is a private application from 9201 LLC for a zoning map amendment from a C82 zoning district to a C4 4D district within the Special Bay Ridge District, and a zoning text amendment to Appendix F. These actions would facilitate the development of a new 11-story mixed-use development, including approximately 110,700 square feet of residential space, or 97 dwelling units, 24 of which will be permanently income restricted. Approximately 18,500 square feet of commercial space, and 52 subcellar and cellar-level parking spaces, more than are required by zoning. The project's located at 9201 4th Avenue, between 4th Avenue and 5th Avenue in Bay Ridge, Community District 10, in Southern Brooklyn. It's located in City Council District 47 with Councilmember Kayla Santos-Suoso. The zoning map amendment seeks to change the existing C82 district along 4th and 5th Avenues to a C4 4D district, which is a commercial district with a residential equivalent of R8A that allows a maximum residential FAR of 7.2 with MIH, a FAR of 6.5 for community facility uses, and a FAR of 3.4 for commercial uses. After a base height of 105 feet, buildings can top out at 145 feet. On January 20th, Brooklyn Community Board 10 voted to approve this application with 24 in favor, 2 against, and 0 in abstention. And on February 11th, the Brooklyn Borough President held a public hearing and recommended approval. Thank you. I'm here for any questions.
Okay, terrific. Well, we're going to pick this one up on Wednesday.
Okay.
Let me see if there are any questions for you. Okay, terrific. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you.
The 11th item on our agenda is a pre-hearing review of zoning map and zoning text amendments in Brooklyn Community District 6, and our presenter is Griffin Mills.
Hello, Griffin.
Hello. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chair Garodnick and Commissioners. This is a pre-hearing presentation for 46 Nelson Street rezoning. This is a private application that's certified on November 17th by 46 Nelson LLC, proposing a zoning map amendment from an M11 to an M12A R7A MX5 and M12A R6A MX5 and a zoning text amendment to Appendix F to establish a mandatory inclusionary housing areas with options 1 and 2. These actions would facilitate a new 7-story mixed-use building with 108 residential units, 27 of which would be permanently income restricted pursuant to MIH, and 1 abstention for a conditional favorable recommendation of the application. The conditions were that the applicant agrees that the building will be constructed as currently designed and to reduce the number of studios and add more 2 and 3 bedrooms. On February 25th, the Brooklyn Borough President adopted a favorable recommendation with conditions for this application. The conditions were that 50% of the ground floor shall be designated and constructed for light industrial uses. The Borough President further called on DCP to establish a mixed-use zoning district that requires the inclusion of light industrial floor area as mandatory components of development. I also want to acknowledge a number of questions were asked during review session, including questions around why the applicant chose an MX district over an M or an R district, why the applicant is proposing a mainly residential development in an MX district, new manufacturing and industrial developments in Red Hook outside of the IBZ, and the intersection with the project area and the BQE plan. I want to note that the applicant will respond to a number of these questions surrounding the rationale for the proposal and the proposed development on Wednesday during the hearing. I can respond to 2 of these, though. In terms of manufacturing developments outside the IBZ, there's 193 total industrial businesses in Red Hook, and about 70% of those are in the IBZ. Since 2004, there's only been approximately 1 new business outside of the IBZ, and there has not been new M uses in the surrounding M11 district. In terms of interaction with the BQE, the current focus of DOT's BQE plan is the central portion, the triple cantilever, and any changes to this portion will be further down the line. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Okay. We'll see this on Wednesday. Any questions here? Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The 12th item on our agenda is a City Council modification scope determination for 1410 Beach Channel Drive rezoning. The City Council proposes to modify the zoning map and zoning text amendments, and staff believe these modifications are within scope. Elike Adai is here to present.
All right, Elike.
Hello. Good afternoon, Chair Commissioner, Chair Garanik and Commissioners. 1410 Beach Channel Drive is returning before you for a City Council modification scope determination. This application was certified by the CPC on July 28, 2025, and the CPC voted to approve on December 17, 2025. The actions include a zoning map amendment to rezone the southern portion of the triangular block 15525 from R5 to an R6A and R6A/C24 district, and a zoning text amendment to establish an MIH area. These actions would facilitate the development of a new 7-story residential building with 118 dwelling units, 30 of which would be income restricted, with approximately 4,800 square feet of commercial space and 4,400 square feet of community facility space. The Council is proposing a modification to the project area boundaries. The block is bounded by Beach Channel Drive to the west, Namiok Avenue to the south, and Hasek Street to the east and west. The rezoning covers the southern portion of the block, including lots 1, 51, 49, 47, and 44, wherein development would occur on lots 1 and 51. The City Council modification is to reduce the project area boundary to just lots 1 and 51 and remove lots 49, 47, and 44. The lots removed from the project area each contain 2 residential buildings and 2-story residential buildings and collectively have residential and community facility space. The modification would make the rezoning area and the development site coterminous and would allow the development to be constructed as proposed. The City Council modification would also alter the proposed MIH area to be coterminous to the project area boundary. Thank you, and happy to take any questions.
Any questions here? Okay, great. Okay, with that, we will do the usual, which is assent by a voice vote to send a scope determination letter to the council. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Okay, ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The 13th item on our agenda is a City Council modification scope determination for 3301 11th Street rezoning. The City Council proposes to modify the zoning text amendment to Appendix F, removing MIH Option 2 and adding MIH Option 3, and staff believe this modification is within scope.
Great. Same thing here, sent by a voice vote to send that scope determination to the council. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay? Okay, ayes have it. Thank you.
The 14th item on our agenda is a City Council modification scope determination for 395 Flatbush Avenue Extension redevelopment. The City Council proposes to modify the zoning text amendment to Appendix F, removing MIH Option 2, and staff believe this modification is within scope.
Voice vote again to send that scope determination letter to the council. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay? Okay, great. The ayes have it. We will send that scope determination. Madam Secretary, what is next?
Future votes for consideration on Wednesday, March 4th. Staff have prepared a report for St. Francis Prep Commercial Overlay, which had a public hearing at the February 18th public meeting. Mary Charlotte Gitlin is on Zoom to present.
All right, Mary Charlotte.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
And I'll just wait until I see the presentation come up in the hearing room. All right, there we go. So the Department of City Planning staff finds the zoning map amendment to establish a C12 commercial overlay on the existing R4 zoning district on the grounds of St. Francis Preparatory High School appropriate. The C12 commercial overlay would legalize an existing non-flashing illuminated sign and continue to support the school's ability to project community announcements related to school events and operations. The establishment of the commercial overlay would also reinforce the existing commercial overlays mapped on Francis Lewis Boulevard north of Forest Riding Expressway. So thank you very much. If there's any questions, happy to take this.
Any questions here on St. Francis Prep? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next for consideration is an authorization in Staten Island Community District 3, and Katie Ferrara Ianito is here on Zoom to present. Give it a moment to get launched here.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm going to present on an item that typically you would only find in writing in your briefing packages because of the nature of the action, which is one of our frequent Staten Island Special District types of actions. But this site is unique in its size and the kind of scale of public conversation that was happening during the referral period. So I'm going to offer just a summary of the materials that you have in your briefing packet on this one. Next slide, please. So the applicant, Arthur Englewood LLC, has requested an authorization under Zoning Resolution Section 10765 to modify natural features, specifically trees and topography, to facilitate development of a 184-space truck parking terminal along Arthur Hill Road in the South Richmond Special District of Staten Island in the neighborhood of Charleston. The site is located in an M11 zone within the special district where the truck terminal use is permitted. The 10765 authorization is triggered because it qualifies as a plan review site due to its size over an acre. Under the 2023 text amendment known as South Richmond Zoning Relief, authorizations such as this one for tree removal and topography modifications were fine-tuned to focus the department and commission's efforts on regulating the larger, more environmentally sensitive sites rather than smaller development sites across South Richmond. Next slide, please. The proposed site plan shown here would provide 184 spaces for tractor-trailer trucks to park as needed, including overnight. There would be a security booth, approximately 400 square feet for staff on site. And the 16-acre site, it is currently vacant, but the proposed project would require the removal of 632 existing trees. 370 trees would be preserved, including a 2.8-acre area of no disturbance under the applicant's proposal. The site has a 57-foot grade change rising from the Arthur Hill Road entrance to the rear of the site on the east. So significant grading, including cutting and filling of 32,000 cubic yards of soil would also be required. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, the 16-acre site is currently vacant of any development. However, the applicant acknowledges that there are 8 outstanding violations issued by the Department of Buildings, including for removal of trees without CPC approval in violation of the special district zoning regulations. While DOB's inspectors were only able to estimate the removal accounted for about 500 trees, the impacts of that unauthorized removal are visible in the aerial images on the screen between 2022 and 2024. Next slide, please. So the applicant has provided materials that describe the proposed project's meeting of the required findings for 10765 authorizations, which include truck turning measurements validating the paving plan is necessary for safe operations, a drainage plan, and an area of no disturbance commitment. The applicant's complete responses to the findings are in your package. I will note that during the department's review of the proposed plans, planners consulted directly with Department of Transportation to ensure that the applicant was providing enough information to validate the anticipated truck traffic and curb cut plans, and with the Department of Environmental Conservation for review of the drainage plan in light of the site's adjacency to a wooded state park, Clay Pit Ponds Park. I also note that the authorization itself is not subject to seeker beyond its identification as a type 2 action. The 10765 authorization is considered ministerial along with other authorizations specified in the seeker memo under SNAD, Hillsides, and South Richmond. Next slide, please. The application was discussed at length by Staten Island Community Board 3 and received a lot of commentary from elected officials and in the press. The community board official comments recommended denial of the authorization, citing specific concerns, including use of the outlined security booth, a lack of detailed environmental review, lack of detailed traffic and transportation study typically expected if you had an EIS, concern over enforcement of quality of life and environmental regulations such as anti-idling, and a request for further explanation on the drainage plan. Next slide, please. The department believes the application meets the required findings for authorization to modify natural features. And in summary, the CPC's granting of this authorization would facilitate the modification of trees and topography for development of a 184-space truck parking facility on Arthur Hill Road in South Richmond, Staten Island. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much, Katie. Hang on a sec. We got a question from Commissioner Benjamin.
In terms of the outstanding violations, what happens with them?
So this section of the zoning resolution does not explicitly state that by virtue of you getting a CPC authorization on a site plan that you've restored your site for purposes of violation. So we do expect the applicant to have to go back to oath for DOB and oath to determine whether they pay the fines or what kind of solution they come to address the outstanding violations even after the CPC site plan.
It does seem the before and after picture do present a dramatic alteration of the landscape. And I can understand why the community is concerned, given its proximity to Clay Pit Pond Park Preserve. Did I get that right? Clay Pit Pond. Park Preserve. And it seems like there was a lovely cover. And given the fact that there's a big grade change here, what is the plan so that we don't see a great deal of cover that is washed away? Is the parking lot paved first?
Yes. And so the drainage plan that the applicant shared, which is part of their findings and in the drawings in your package, shows, I think it's 19 dry well pits, which is 311 dry wells across the site. And again, that was the DEC looked at that plan specifically. I don't recall if there was a commentary engagement back and forth between DEC and the applicant, but there was review by DEC.
Okay. Thank you. I'll look further at that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary?
Lastly, for consideration on Wednesday is 3759 Hamilton Avenue rezoning. And that's the end of our business.
Okay, terrific. With that, my appreciation to all of you. We will pick this back up on Wednesday. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Time is 3:11.